When I ran for school board in 2011, 70,000 people voted for me.
Excuse me, you are who?
Kate Martin. Yes. My tagline for that campaign was Kate does her homework, and I will continue to do my homework, and I'm still doing my homework right now. But my tagline this time is Kate Makes Sense, spelled C-E-N-T-S. I feel that frugal is the new normal, and Seattle has not quite caught up. We're spending money we don't have on things we can't afford, while we ignore problems that exist in the delivery of basic government services like transportation, public safety, and utilities. We keep grabbing shiny new tools, but we don't sharpen the saws that we already have. Discussing what's next is good, but now, what is now is what needs our attention. We need to simplify, we need to do things less expensively, and I believe the voters will be grateful when we do. We have to change the culture to one where we fund maintenance, the nearly forgotten habit of putting money away to take care of what we have as we go along so that it doesn't fall apart. Instead, we just buy new things and have periodic whopper levies to make future generations catch up for our lack of fiscal discipline today. When browsing the capital budget for 2013, I noticed that every department has a thematic priority that includes maintenance. But those are just aspirations, not reality. We're not supposed to be using the Bridging the Gap levy to get further behind, but we are. We only spent $12,000 of the general fund last year fixing sidewalks across the entire city. Meanwhile, we spent $170 million, nearly 20% of the general fund, on employee health care benefits in 2012. We're on an absolutely unsustainable trajectory with those health care expenses expected to double again in the next 10 years as they did in the last 10. That's not going to work. We're $1 billion underfunded on employee health care benefits. That's not going to work. Basically, we're still acting like we're in the bubble. What we need to do as this economic recovery takes hold is to find ways to get more done with less, and to restrain ourselves fiscally in order to put the city's long-term financial house in order. Our rainy day fund and goals for growing it are way too lowball. We need something that can carry us through a typical downturn in the business cycle, which may look like the dip we just went through, which was gigantic. When we spend money to build or expand anything, we need a reasonable and realistic financial commitment to maintenance. That's just common sense. I read in the budget that they're making noises downtown at City Hall about a parks levy to follow the current one that will just pay for catch-up on neglected maintenance. Neglected maintenance is a liability, just like that unfunded retirement account. It needs to show up on our books like that, or it seems that no one will see it, but I see it and I trust that you see it. The rule of thumb is to set aside 1% of the value of facilities for maintenance annually. Palming it off to future generations is wrong, and it's a terrible waste of our investments to let them fall apart. We've neglected everything, and now we're looking for windfalls to sweep that all under the rug. Windfall maintenance levies are just an escape hatch for irresponsible politicians. The Bridging the Gap levy was supposed to be one of those windfalls, but we still haven't learned a thing. Now the city puts even less annually from the general fund into street maintenance. People don't like to give governments more money when they don't use the money they have wisely. Before we pass another maintenance or operations levy, we should consider a bit of austerity and some policies that prevent this kind of neglect from occurring. Let's make it politically infeasible to keep this pattern going. Our full potential as a city can be realized with winning governing strategies that don't lose sight of the basics. I'm taking my professional skills in planning, design, and business, my decades-long civic resume, and my 22 years of parenting with me to City Hall. Please check out my White Pages tab on my website to read posts about the planks of my platform and my positions on specific issues. Contact me anytime with your opinions. I wish to win your vote over these coming months, and I sincerely thank you for having me here today.
Okay, great. We'll move now into 15 minutes to address our 5 issue areas.
Okay. The first issue, transportation, I handled in a bullet point response, so I'm going to start with Metro. I call it maximizing Metro. Nothing in the transit master plan should divert us away from getting Metro and its funding right. As much as we talk about the environmental reasons not to drive to work, we don't talk about the business reasons for transit as much as we should. Congestion kills business. Transit currently carries 42% of the downtown workers. The 35% that drive need to be put on a steady diet of reduction. Seattle must be a fantastic place to do business, and we can't be that with the roads clogged up. We need to tweak the system we have into a first-rate and fully funded bus system to complement light rail and other modes. I don't think we should throw more money at Metro without first working with them to reduce their labor costs. Once costs are on a sustainable trajectory, adding funding will be necessary. I'd like to work with Metro to rebrand it into a more contemporary, sexier version, more like the kind of bus that attracts folks reluctant to ride transit. The lowrider buses are definitely the right direction. I'd like to appeal to management of businesses to use a transit equals business strategy to help their management leadership teams to see that the cars they commute in during peak hours hurt their own businesses and those of others. Regarding bridging the gap, don't let the government get further behind on maintenance just because we now have bridging the gap or some other windfall levy. Take the value of our assets, set them aside at an established percentage for maintenance to be paid from the general fund. Make it transparent to voters what things we pay for with the general fund. That $12,000 last year for sidewalks and the $18,000 proposed citywide is not going to work. We need to take responsibility for what we use and wear out in real time. Parking. I do think Seattle is still a place where having access to a car is a good thing for many people. Providing folks don't contribute to congestion by taking it downtown during peak commute times, we'll be okay with some cars, and I don't want to see buildings with no residential parking available. That can really hurt business, as well as having residents clogging the spots in front of businesses when there's no parking in or around the residential buildings. A moderate approach to that so business districts can thrive and some people can tuck a car out of the way makes sense. Once business districts do become to get saturated with walkability, parking can back off, but it's very important to businesses to have parking. Regarding light rail, I think it looks better and functions better when it's underground. To see the less affluent neighborhoods get it on grade doesn't sit well with my equity expectations. I do think we need a long-term grade-separated system to complement the buses. It will be expensive and it will take a very long time, but Seattle's economic future depends on it. That said, Sound Transit itself may not be the entity to bring this system forward, as it's been uneven in terms of managing capital expenses and operations as well, which brings us back to Metro. Gentrification. I think diversity is the key to our destiny. Ritzy parts of town are great, and high property values there do make sense, but in order to be sustainable in all ways, including economically in the future, we need to be careful to not spike property values in ways that will make us unattractive places to live and run a business. We have to stay competitive and relevant. There will always be a cheaper place to live or do business. We're an attractive place, so let's stay that way. Building monocultures is very unstable and unsustainable. Using the pie chart tool I often mention, we can see what we need to be encouraging to keep things in balance. Concentrating poverty is trouble, with crime, with unsupported kids in schools, with unsupported people in our communities. Building for variety is the best bet. A variety of ages, price points, cultures, and family sizes keeps communities much more self-supporting. And just like affordable housing, making sure there are business spaces available for low-cost startup and reduced cost operation is important to keeping communities accessible to all. Another thing we can measure and keep track of with the pie chart tool. Perhaps very micro-business district nodes, such as from bygone days, would help to create more affordable commercial space. Helping people to be able to make their homes financially sustainable now and in the future is key. Incentivizing people to establish accessory dwelling units and flex houses in single-family zones will make them much more stable and will expand affordable housing options. I speak firsthand about this, and it works. Regarding stabilizing the city budget, with our focus on property taxes and sales tax for revenue, we get into some conundrums. The regressive nature of the tax structure means that Washington is the 47th cheapest state in the nation for the well-off, while the low-income earners wind up paying more than their fair share. Finding a way for all Seattleites to participate fairly in paying for our city is important. We have to figure out how to address homelessness without becoming a magnet for the homeless, which is untenable for any municipality. Separating the reasons for homelessness and addressing the root causes to get at prevention is key. Rebuilding the middle class and galvanizing middle class values is also key. Many people have no knowledge and no access to those values or that socioeconomic status. Diversity strategies and diluting poverty will help that. Attracting better jobs and reducing undereducation are also key. We need to talk more about public sector austerity during boom times and more public sector investment during recessions. We've hit the fiscal ceiling. Things need to change. Anyone who tells you differently is lying to you. We need a bigger rainy day fund, and we need to align with Obamacare, more employee participation in healthcare costs and wellness behaviors, and a pay-as-we-go approach. Additionally, retirement savings need more personal participation. Regarding Seattle growth, the comprehensive plan, as it turns out, is not that comprehensive. Schools are still not a part of the plan, and transit doesn't make a community, people do. I'd like to see us put the village in urban village. We can't just let density quotas and levy capital projects be the beginning and end of developing livable, complete neighborhoods. Relying on property value escalation just makes us an unaffordable place to live and run a business and puts a huge burden on the next generation. We want people and businesses already here to stay and new ones to come. We have to stay accessible. By using my pie chart tool to measure how we're doing with creating great human habitats at the same time that we're building density will certainly help. Affordable housing can't be an afterthought or something we throw onto a reservation and into the most inhumane and unhealthy locations. Instead of urban renewal knock-it-down strategy, a more organic incremental process will allow it to happen without the nothingness of empty lots and empty promises. It is possible that micro-business districts need to be added to the mix and that single-family zones need to redefine what sustainable single-family zones look like. Letting Main Street migrate to mostly expensive restaurants and bars and ubiquitous cafes isn't my idea of livable. Retail is not economic development. The fiscalization of land use is the policy term that best describes us. Land use gets driven by our city government trying to balance their budget, not by human needs or what's most efficient or what's best for public health or what's good for jobs. Regarding neighborhoods versus downtown, after serving on the Pedestrian Master Plan Advisory Committee in 07-08, I moved to the Neighborhood Plan Update Committee. It was such a disappointment. It felt like a sham. It seemed skewed towards checking boxes for state requirements and so devoid of the kind of process we could have to improve the climate for good jobs and for humans. I don't think we need to have an us and them relationship with downtown. It's a neighborhood and deserves quite a bit of our attention, just like the other neighborhoods. It needs to welcome all of us out into the neighborhoods to come down and enjoy, as well as the people who come to visit. We've concentrated so much poverty at the south end of downtown, and now so much wealth at the north end, that it's an unfortunate haves and have-nots situation. Just like elsewhere in Seattle, we need to provide room to grow the middle class and livable, complete neighborhoods with families, schools, playgrounds, grocery stores, town centers, a sense of place, and more. Certainly, we need to be growing the kinds of jobs that are livable, and that largely is not the kind offered by retail. If we use the same kind of pie chart scorekeeper to see what is missing front and center on the needs list and find more ways than just a levy now and then to implement the plans, we'll know where we're going and how we're going to get there. We can't say that we've already provided all the community centers we'll ever have, or that we don't need more parks and all the money will go to the ones that we already have. We're going to continue growing, and we have to find ways to put our facilities and our tax dollars to work harder and smarter, and that will require cross-boundary collaboration and leveraging our dollars with those of the school district, organizations, businesses, and individuals. I'm very much concerned about the Central Waterfront Plan. The view walk connecting Pike Market to the aquarium and the adjacent pier seems overbearing in scale, too expensive, and in general I think it lacks a Seattle-specific sense of place. The programming seems inadequate to keep it humming year-round on both sunny and cloudy days. I do not think it's ready for prime time. Today is February 9th. We have 6 months between now and the primary. These responses are such a preliminary glimpse of what I think and how my platform is developing. My ears and my eyes are wide open. I will always be systematic in the way I analyze situations and synthesize solutions. I share your concerns, and I promise to not bring you more of the same from City Hall. And I thank you.